So we got 52 people accepted and 20 people tentatively accepted, and we're a little bit short of that right now. Oh, we're 2 minutes early though, so hey. Hi, Cynthia.
Hello, Patty.
It's been a long time.
Oh my goodness, it has. How are you?
Not too bad. How about you?
I can't complain. I cannot complain. My gosh, really, how long has it been? 2000, was it 4?
No, is it 18?
18?
17, 18, somewhere in there.
So I'm thinking, okay. Whew. Wow. Few years. It was great to hear your voice.
Same to you. Yeah, COVID makes everything seem like it's been a long time, doesn't it?
It does. Oh. Actually, I'm just thinking all the hops I've made since then. Been all around.
So it's 1 o'clock now, Brian, but should we give like 2 or 3 minutes for people to join?
Yes, please. A lot of people
Okay.
have meetings that bunt right up to this meeting.
Hey, Brian, I don't think we've met officially yet.
Hi, how are you? Welcome to the team.
Yeah. A baptism by fire.
Yes.
All good.
Well, you sure had that, Brian, when you joined.
Absolutely.
But it all worked out well.
I almost didn't make it.
It's like getting shot out of a cannon and saying fly.
Well, I jumped in to help out. We had some transitions, and my other client we're just starting to spin up a couple of new projects, so I had opportunity to jump in and while they get things worked out.
So I will say, before we get started, a few people messaged me to say, did they have to attend for the whole time period? So that's why I flashed up the agenda. So the first of all, no one at McLaren has actually had real official training. So I'm going to try to do my best to not only show you what's new in TransIT 5.0, but to just basically show you the functionality in TransIT. So the majority of the time, I'm going to focus on TransIT testing. And that's because you guys are heavy users of testing and plans, but plans, I think you've had more training in than you have testing. So, Brian and I spoke a little bit beforehand, and I'm going to focus more of the time on that. And I'm also going to, like I said, show the base functionality as opposed to just show what's different between TransIT 4 and TransIT 5. And people have said they may not be able to attend the whole time. And so what I'm doing is I'm taping the session and we'll post it on our YouTube channel, and then I'll send the whole distribution the link to this session.
Fabulous. Thank you.
No problem. So I've set my phone to go off at 2:30 so that we will actually take our break, because otherwise there's so much material to show today that I would just talk right through the whole time. So it will be definitely 2:30 to 2:45, and there's so much material to show that I plan to start right again at 2:45. So the first section, we're going to talk about building content in TransIT. And so we're going to talk about the user setting. I'm sorry.
I have a question for you real quick.
Sure.
So we do have a meeting with McCross during this meeting also. So can we take our break the same time we have the meeting with Vikas by any chance?
What time is that?
Let me look and give you the time.
I mean, the break's only 15 minutes, so it's
Yeah, the
not
break's
gonna
only 15
really
minutes.
be able to cover that full duration of that meeting. So
Yeah, the meeting with Vikas, if is that the one, excuse me, the 2 to 3 meeting?
yeah, it's the one McLaren program meeting.
Mhm.
That slide deck does get sent out after the meeting.
So so just so everyone understands how this session came about, because of the switch between Atos and not Atos, a lot of people at McLaren, we offered these sessions before we went live with TransIT 5, and just because of all of the email address changes and everything, it ended up that the McLaren people didn't get invited to those sessions. So I contacted John and said, hey, I think we need to do a session just for your team. So I am tape recording it. So if people have to leave for another meeting, then, they'll have to catch up later by looking at the video, because I can't take an hour out of 3 hours and possibly cover all the material that there is to cover. So the first section is going to be on building content in TransIT, and that's where you guys have had pretty much no training whatsoever at all. Then the second piece is going to be on testing issues and reports. And then the last piece that I've left not that much time for is the TransIT plans piece, because I do feel like you guys are actually doing fairly well in the TransIT plans. So that's my plan for today. And then there's 15 minutes at the end for questions. And then if people have questions after 4 o'clock, then for sure, any questions you ever have about TransIT, all you have to do is email support@makeSolutionsInc.com, and they'll reply back to you as quickly as possible. So get rid of my agenda now. Okay, and let me just log off here. One of the first changes that came with TransIT 5.0 is we now ask when you sign on that if you've never signed on before, or if you've never signed on to TransIT 5, that you do acknowledge our privacy policy and our terms of service. And the only thing that's really, really important there is to understand that we really are not expecting anybody to put any PHI in TransIT. So, if you accidentally, if you do a screenshot and that's got production data or whatever, we ask that you obscure the production data, or that if you realize you've done it, that you remove it. So that's the most important thing in all of this piece here. But anyway, once you accept it, it goes away, and you won't see that again unless we change our terms of service or our privacy policy and push it back out to get people to re-acknowledge. So that was the very first thing that changed in TransIT 5. Once you get inside TransIT, you'll notice that everything looks different. And I'm sure you guys have probably been in since then. And so one of the biggest complaints we always had about TransIT was when you were anywhere in TransIT and you went to scroll, this line would roll off the page because it wasn't a true grid. So we've gone to more grid type functionality. And so now whatever page you're in, this banner won't scroll off the page. Additionally, when you're inside TransIT, there's usually extra options that are available. If you right click any header, it'll give you options that you can do. Or if you're in any row, if you right click that row, it'll give you options for that row. So that's any page within TransIT. Additionally, in most places in TransIT, if you're in some sort of a list, if we go to the user list here, if you're in a list, then you typically speaking can click and shift click to highlight multiple rows at once. And then if there are actions available to be taken on those multiple rows at once, then you can right click and it'll give you whatever options are available. There's also places where you can double click and it'll allow you to update data that way. But that's not everywhere. You can't always use the edit online functionality. Another sort of tip would be that if you're if there's something that you want to save, so say for example a specific view of the issue list, you can go in some places and click this filter, and it'll allow you to build a filter that you can save as a favorite. So for example, if you wanted to get all of your open issues that are in a resolution proposed status, then you could build this as a filter and say create, and it then added information to the header here. You can save that as a favorite, and anytime you wanted to get your list of things that were pending resolution, you could just click on that. So if I take this and I save this as a bookmark, I could type. Then anytime I'm anywhere and I go to that bookmark, it's going to take me back to that filtered list. So that is, helpful, probably more helpful for people like Brian than anybody else. But that is like, sort of a advanced user functionality that we have now that we didn't have before. In any time where there's a lot of information to display, you can use a hover to show you the rest of the information, and you'll know that there's more information because of the 3 dots here. And so that's here, or that's also often, if we go into your tasks page, you'll see that there's a lot of times where you can use a hover to pop open more information. In TransIT now, you can use Control-C and Control-V to do cut and paste, but you can only do it if on a right-click option, you can see Control-C and Control-V. So in this case, you can't copy this task that way because it's not there as a function. But I guess we'll see in plans in that you can use the Control-C and Control-V. Another thing about TransIT 5, we no longer support Internet Explorer. And so you guys are using Edge anyway, so that won't be an issue for you. But one thing that Brian and I discovered the other day is that McLaren is using a very old version of Chrome. So I think Chrome is 91.something.something, and you guys are on 81.something.something. So if you've been in TransIT and you've noticed that some of the text is scrunched up in some of the cells and that you can't read it, then until you guys upgrade your version of Chrome, our recommendation is to switch to Edge. I don't know if it does it in Firefox because I'm not sure if anyone there uses Firefox, but we are working with Bryanton, who supplies the grid functionality to us, to see if there's something they can do so that you won't have to upgrade your version of Chrome. But at this point, the answer is use Edge if you're having that issue. So I don't know if anyone else has noticed that or not, but Brian reported that to our help desk. Okay, in TransIT 5.0, there's now something called your user settings. To get to your user settings, you click your name in the orange bar here, and it pops open this window. And so everyone has access to this, and the things that are important to note in here is that you have the ability to either turn on or turn off emailing and texting. Right now, texting is only available when you're due up in test steps. So if you've said that you've got a specific position and that position is due up, you can choose to receive an email for that, or you can choose to receive a text message, or you can choose to receive both. In the future, SMS will also be available for notes and for issues, but right now only emailing is available for notes and issues. So now once you're in here, you can also update what's called your roster status. So your roster status shows on the user page. If you're in a round of testing and you've got, a 3-hour meeting and you're not going to be available, then that's where you would put in, hey, I'll be back at 4 p.m. or whatever you wanted to put in there. This is where you can select what positions you're available to help with testing. So if I click that, you'll see it gives me a list, and you guys have a gazillion positions, probably 4 times the number you need. But at any rate, so you've got 572. So say the positions that I was interested in were the ED positions. I can search for those, and you see they're here, and I could say, okay, I'm doing all of these roles in testing, you know, whichever ones you want to choose, and then click save, and they save here to your position. There is a known issue right now with that, which is when I go in here, it's only showing me the first 100 records. And so once I do a search, so say, like, I don't believe I can search on nurse and that it'll show me all of the, oh, it does. Okay, so it only lets you to do one search at a time. So if I were wanting to do all nursing positions, then this is how I would probably do it, and then select all and then click save, and it would then overwrite what was there before. So if there's multiple searches that you needed to do, so say you wanted to do all the nurse positions and you wanted to do all the patient care tech positions or whatever it was, then our recommendation there is that you do it from within the round of testing. But at any rate, this is where we would ask you to go and assign your positions, because if everyone goes in and builds their positions out here, then it makes it much easier for Brian when he's running around to testing, because he knows who's available for what. Then you also do have the options here to select if you want to receive it, a notification right before your steps start, and if you want to receive an email before your activities start. I don't think the activity one is actually working yet. That's for plans. But at any rate, I would set those settings now so that you get the notifications that you're wanting. And then obviously this icon here, this link used to be just password change. Password change is still part of it, but all these other settings are now included in your user settings. Okay. Let's see. So if we go, we're now on the tasks page. And so this is where, you know, it gets a little bit interesting because like I said, you guys have never had any real training in transit. So tasks are the base of all of the content that we develop for writing test scripts. So if I wanted to create a new task, it works basically the same as it did in Transit 4.0 with a few little differences. If you wanted to look and see if there was content available from our global content, then you would click this icon. If you wanted to create your own content, then you would click here. So if I click here to create a new task, it asks me to give it a name. So let's say I'm just making this up. Once you fill out all this information and click save, it takes you inside. And to add steps, you click this add. And there are real differences between 4.0 and 5.0. In 4.0, we made you choose every time you created a test step inside your tasks, we made you choose who was going to do that step. So here would be where you said it was the reg clerk or it was the scheduling person or whatever. We now do not associate that at the task level at all. So it created a lot of havoc for people building test scripts if they would choose a task that didn't have a certain position on it. So we've eliminated the need for all of that. And that is one of the biggest differences. Okay, so now if we're going to create this task, we fill in the rest of the information. So the product here is going to be access management and, oops. And so now you just start typing whatever you want in here. So and click save, and that might be your entire task. And so within task steps, we used to also attach interface transactions here. We've also removed the interface transactions from being attached, and those get attached at either the workflow level or the test script level. So what we've tried to do is make it as easy as possible to create content as quickly as possible. So if I wanted to create another task, one that has some, oops, sorry about that, has some of the other features inside TransIT in use. If the task I'm creating is similar to this one, I can right click on it and do create copy. It's going to ask me to give it a name, and so I'll give it a name. And click save. And it's going to take me inside. I can then edit the details that are here. If I want to make variable data that can be updated either at the workflow or test script level, I can click this details field and it's going to add in a placeholder for that variable information. And I also have the ability to add details here. There is also the ability now in TransIT 5.0 to pull in any of the scenario header details. So this is where you give the information for your scenario at the beginning, and you can choose any of these fields. So I could have chosen person last name, person first name, and date of birth here, but in doing so, you would only want to do that if that was always the search criteria you're going to use. Otherwise, it's better to add it at the workflow level. So now that I've modified this information, I can click save. And now I've created two tasks in, whoops, sorry about that, two tasks in TransIT. Ange is much better at these demos. That make up a person's search. So first of all, you access the search icon, and then you put in your details, and then you get your results. So this is how we build content in TransIT. You have the ability to have a service or a subservice added. So if this was something that was only allowed in registration and not allowed in scheduling, you might have chosen to add registration here, but you don't have to do that. This column here shows you what test scripts that particular piece of functionality is in. So we just created these, and so they're not used in any test scripts yet. If we go and hover over some of these other ones, so this here is in the scenario called WH underscore outpatient iron infusion dash bay. You know, this one's in 6 different scenarios. So if I hover over it, it tells me specifically which scenarios it's in. And if you wanted to actually, is that 6-1? If you wanted to actually access those to see where it was, then it's much easier to do than it was in TransIT 4.0. You click on the icon, the hover icon, and it pops open this window. And then if I wanted to go and see where that was here, I can right click, whoops. And what did it say? Open a new tab. And it then puts me over to where that task was here. And then also, anytime you've opened a new window in TransIT, you can do Control W to close that window. So that allows you to get to where that task is in any of the test scripts that you've entered it in. So I can just click cancel out of that. Okay, so the next thing then beyond tasks is workflows. And so to go to workflows, I just click on the workflow tab here. It's not like tasks. So when I was mistakenly clicking, when you go to tasks, it's wanting you, if I go back here, tasks belong to a certain project. And so you guys have 3 projects active now, and I was going into your current state project. And that's because when you're creating the task content, it belongs to a specific project. So it's either something that's part of your current functionality or it's part of one of your projects you're implementing. Workflows doesn't have that same way of displaying them. So all workflows are accessed from the same place, and you can see the project is just listed as one of the columns here. So if I wanted to create a workflow, then I click this icon here. And again, there's an ability to bring in content from Make Solutions where we've created workflows for you. In the meantime, if I want to create a new one, then I click here and I'm going to say, and this is a piece of Cerner functionality. So I enter that here and I click save. Then it's going to take me inside to allow me to build the workflow. A lot of the content development we use this icon here. And when you get really familiar with TransIT, you'll probably do that yourself. So instead of me going to the tasks page and creating my tasks, I actually could have just clicked here to create a new task inside the workflow. But for today, we'll just use this icon, which is to go out and look for tasks that already exist. So the ones that we just created, I named person search. So if I look for those tasks, then yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. I should have named it something different that wasn't going to have so many. Sorry. So if I filter to only show Cerner ones, and it takes the ones that aren't Cerner off the screen. And we've only got 33 of them, so we should be able to find. So here are the 2 that I created. And I know that the 2 I created because the ones that you guys create inside your own content all are greater than 100,000. And so these ones here are all ones for global. So here are the 2 ones that I just created, person search begin and person search details. So if I select those in the order that I want them to appear in my workflow and I click next, I only want to add them each one time. Here is where if I wanted this to always be done by a registration clerk or most often done by the registration clerk, I can choose that here. I can put a note if I want to that describes this workflow in any way. And then I click save and it brings the 2 tasks that we created into our workflow. So the variable placeholders that we put, those square bracket details, show up now as blue hyperlinks that say click to add details. If I wanted to put details in here, so if primarily what the search criteria that you use most of the time is last name, first name, date of birth, then I would enter that here. And by putting it in square brackets, you're telling it to pull that information from the scenario header.
And Patty, why would you do that instead of just putting the details in the script?
So if this is a workflow and this is a bogus workflow, right? But if this were a real workflow that you developed and say 80% of the time, this is what you want them to do, then I would put it at the workflow level, because then it'll automatically pull into the workflow, and then you only have to change it 20% of the time. Even if it's like, 30% of the time you do this, and then the other times it's completely random. If it's going to save you time in building your test script, that's when you would put it in. Does that make sense? So this means every time I use this workflow, it's automatically going to come pre-populated with this in it. And so then that means that I don't have to put the patient's name 5,000 times into the test script. I can instead put the patient's name and the patient's first name and last name into the header information, and it'll automatically pull into my test script. It's the same like, we typically, if it's the financial number, we don't put in the financial number here. We put it in the details like this when you pull it in, because you may have 3 or 4 fins in the same test script. So if we always say pull in fin 1, and you've got 3 or 4 test scripts, or sorry, 3 or 4 fins in that test script, then it's not going to always be pulling in the right information. So you only put in something at the task level if it's going to be there 100% of the time. So if and I can't even think of anything that's 100% of the time anymore. We used to say that you would only have one patient name in a scenario, but then people asked us to add a second patient name for, when a person was registered incorrectly and they wanted to update the name. So there's virtually all of the fields have multiples associated. And if it's ever going to be a multiple, or it might be that in this case, you wanted to search on the gender as well, or whatever. So if there's ever going to be variable information, then it's better to put it in like this, what you're going to do most of the time. And then in the test script, they can update it to be what they're specifically wanting for that test script. And so you can also fill in your outcomes, you could fill in information, and then this is going to pull into the test script as well. If we wanted to add an interface transaction, this isn't one that would really have an interface transaction, but say this was, and you guys don't have a lot of interface transactions turned on. I'm in your area, so we can't really show that. Well, yeah, because none of these are real. Okay, so if this was one of those transactions that we wanted to add, and none of them were, but you can add that there. So, typically in your registrations where you've got an ADT A04 that's being sent to 30 or 40 different downstream systems, this is where you would add that information. One thing that was a limitation in TransIT 4.0 that's gone away in TransIT 5, if we go back here and look at the global content, it used to be that you had to import all of the tasks first and then import the workflows associated with those tasks. That's no longer a limitation. If we were to go and look and see that we wanted to bring in a workflow from global, then when we search for it, if the tasks don't exist in your environment, it automatically brings those tasks in. So if I wanted to bring in this workflow and I click import, it's telling you it's going to do it in the background, and that you can carry on with your work. So this is workflow 680 we're looking for. So it's going to go ahead and go and pull that content in. So if I go and search now to see if it's completed, so it is there. If I click here, it'll take me inside that workflow and I'll see all of those tasks that were there. Before, if you didn't bring in the tasks first, your workflow would come up blank. Now what it does is it brings in all the tasks first, and then it puts them together in the workflow for you. So again, you'll see like the difference between the content we develop and the content that is in your environment. We updated all of your test scripts uploaded all of your test scripts from existing test scripts. And so some of them didn't have a lot of detail in, versus ours are very click by click. And so you can see here, it's brought it in saying fin, but the fin is in blue, meaning that it's editable for the test script. So you could change it to be fin 2 or fin 3 or fin 4, depending on whatever is in the scenario. But at any rate, the main thing here to note is that workflows are much easier to bring in from global now because you don't have to make sure the tasks are there first. If you wanted to, this here is the task number. If there was something wrong with this and you wanted to change this task, then if you right click, you can edit task and it'll take you to the task and you can update the task. So, you know, if I wanted to change this to say person last name and person first name, for example, then by going here, it lets me do it. You can see it opened in a new window. So again, if I want to go back to the workflow, I click Control W and it closes it. This one, this is the only workflow that this task is in. If I go out and look, say something that's more frequently used. If there was something I wanted to change in here, likely these are used in other places. So if I went here and said I wanted to change this task, then it's going to pop up a little warning box and tell me you can go ahead and change this task, but when you do, it's not going to just update it in this one workflow. It's going to update it in all of these test scripts. So again, you can go and do it. So if the task was wrong and you want to change it, you can certainly change it here, but it's just letting you know. So if I click continue, it's going to let me go to that task and it's going to let me update that task. In case anyone didn't notice, I'm not really in McLaren. I'm in the demo version, so I'm not screwing up any of your content. But if, you know, say, for example, the icon isn't called PM Office and it's called something else, and you wanted to change that, then when we change it here, if we edit this task, edit this step, or whatever, then when I've saved this here, it didn't just update it in this task, it also updated it in the workflow. And it also updated it in every single test script that it was used in. So again, it's really powerful in that it allows you to do it. Good that I'm in the demo environment because I think it is still called PM Office, but at any rate, you get the idea. If you're in a workflow and you notice there's something wrong in that workflow and you're sure it's wrong everywhere, then by going in and updating that task from that workflow, you've updated it everywhere it's used. It used to be that we did a lot of things using uploads. Uploads have pretty much gone away in TransIT 5. Instead of uploading things now, it's more cut and paste type functionality. So if I move on to scenarios, then where we used to build scenarios by creating Excel spreadsheets that were in a certain format and uploading them, we still have the ability to do that, but instead it's with cut and paste functionality. And I don't think I have anything specifically prepped for that to show you for today. But if you didn't know what the format was, you can go to our reports, and under reports, you can go to training materials, and then under training materials, there should be layouts here. So, so here's the layout for a functional test script to upload one, and here's the layout for a process-based test script. So if you were going to click here, it'll download for you. And for me, it's going on my other monitor here. So once I download that, this is now the format that I know that I need to put my content that I want to upload into. So, you know, some of these columns aren't required, the task and the workflow. you probably won't be filling in if you're uploading from another test script from another area. I don't know if you guys are still continuing to upload scripts or not, because I know all we really did was the Cerner ones. So if you have test scripts for any of your other vendors, like, you know, whoever your ERP systems are, then you could do the same as we did for your Cerner scripts by taking your existing Excel spreadsheets and cutting and pasting into these columns. And then once you do, you just highlight the rows and highlight whatever rows you wanted to put in here. So let's just I don't know, maybe let me find some other content that I could use. So if I look at a FarmNet type test script that I had, ooh, that's not going to be good because this I said was process based. Yeah, so let me go back and instead get the headers for the functional script. So here are the things that I'm supposed to have for a functional script. And then if I go to this FarmNet one and I show just cutting and pasting a few of the columns. So this is the position column. So copy that. I paste it here. I go back to my other spreadsheet. And this is literally what you guys would do. Let's see if I can do more at once. So this application section, action, outcome. Okay, so these ones I can all do together. They're all in the same order. And then facility, is it just bay like this? Or does it have something more than the word bay?
McLaren Bay.
Okay, is it McLaren dash bay?
Nope, just space. Lowercase. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Oops. So this is what we basically do when we upload scripts for you. And so now all I need to do is I need to highlight whatever section I want to upload. And let's go back over to TransIT. In the scenarios, I would say I want to create a new scenario. And this is just our test one. This is a functional one. It's going to take me inside. Once I'm inside, I can come over here and I can copy by using Control-C and then right click here. And then I want to say I want to paste from the clipboard. And it's showing me what it's going to look like. You can see that we didn't have all of the applications there. And so now it'll fill in what, oh, actually, it wasn't bad. It didn't put in any positions or any login information. So that's because I was copying it from my domain. And so my position was RX and you guys don't have a position called RX, but it did copy everything in and create the test script for you. And now you could just edit it in here. So once you're inside the test script, if you wanted to, so one other thing you can do in TransIT, if you right click the header, you can go page size all, and that then gives you, instead of it being in 3 pages, it's all in a single page. So if all of this was the pharmacist in FarmNet and I wanted to change all the positions, then I can select all the rows by clicking and shift clicking and go change position here. And the position. I'm not sure why it's not giving me the position name. Maybe try to just do one. Okay, I know it's working in production. This is in our demo domain. I'm not sure why it's not coming up here. But anyway, you could go in and change the position. And when you put in the position, it then pulls in the login information. So this replaces the way we used to do the uploads. And I don't know if anyone has done any uploads since we did your test scripts for you or not, but this is very, very useful for getting content that's in Excel from whatever vendor that you're starting to work with and get it into to TransIT quickly. Other things that are different. Oh, it was just slow. It's not giving me the position names for some reason, and I'm not sure why. So one of the other things that's different is we used to have training scenarios in TransIT, and we've done away with the training scenarios because no one was using them. So all there is now are these functional ones for doing system testing and the process-based ones for doing integration testing. If we go to one of your existing scenarios, so say this one, for example, if we wanted to look at the header information, to do that now you right click here and click edit header and it'll bring up the header information. So this is your current header information. And if you wanted to update one of the fields, you can double click and it'll let you update that field and save it. If on the other hand, you wanted to add in additional fields that aren't currently in here, and your guys' headers are pretty darn good, you click the edit pencil icon here and it shows you the list of fields. So let's say you wanted to add in ED medications and you didn't have that as a field before, you click here and you click add and it adds it to the row, to the available fields here. So here's the ED medications. So it's been added. So now if I want to put it in, again, this is not real, so I'm not really affecting your real test scripts. This is in our demo area. And so then it's edited it here. One of the things I said is that you don't have to add positions until you get to the scenario, but actually once you're at the scenario level, you want to make sure that you do fill in all the positions. So if I go inside the scenario now, you can see that your positions have all been filled in already. But again, instead of where we used to have the black arrows for doing it, you click and you shift click on the last one, which is here. And if this wasn't the right position and you wanted to change it, you then click change and click position. And, you know, if this was really supposed to be the ambulatory MA, I can change it to say ambulatory MA and save, and it updates them. Again, like if, so this was, we were doing some sort of a registration here, right?
Hey, Patty, isn't something I was wondering is with that, what you were just showing where you right click and like if you were to cut multiple steps.
Yeah.
I highlighted multiple steps, right clicked cut, saw the icons appear, but then couldn't, like I couldn't remember how does it actually cut them.
Okay, so if you want to, it depends what you want to do. If you wanted to delete them, is that what you meant? Like
Sure.
cut is for if you're going to cut and paste.
Okay.
If you were wanting to delete them, then you click and shift click and you right click and you do inactivate. If you wanted to cut them because you wanted to paste them somewhere else, that's where you do the cut here. It highlights them showing their cut. And then if you wanted to paste it here, you would right click here and you would do then paste above.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. And that's, you know, it is a lot easier to do it than it used to be. It also positions you better when you're moving around. So if you're you know, highlighting things and pasting them, it leaves you where you are instead of bopping you back up to the top like it did. It used to be that inside the scenarios, you had to say on the scenario header what facility this script was for, but now that information automatically pulls in here. So if you have a patient that starts at Bay and then goes to, give me another name, I can't remember any of the names, Oakland. So if a patient was, and that might not even be a real workflow, but if somebody was transferred in your script between two facilities, it would automatically put that information in here. So you don't have to do that anymore. It populates by reading the test scripts. The other thing that's useful to remember in here, that this is another one of the places where you can do that page size all. So sometimes when you're trying to move content around in a test script and you're trying to remember like what page was it on, or it used to be that it would take a long time. So we would always recommend you not do the all, but now it's much quicker screen to screen. So there's no problem with doing a page size all here. So if I wanted to, you know, cut these tasks out again and move them somewhere else. Oops. And I wanted to move them way down to the bottom here, where in TransIT before that would give you sort of a performance problem. Now it's not a problem at all. And so I can just paste it above there and it pastes right in and it leaves me here. So it doesn't scroll me right back up to the top of the screen like it used to. So another big, huge win. Let's see. You also in here, if the same as in a workflow, if I don't know if this one has been used other places, but if I said right click here and did edit task, yeah. So it'll pop up and tell me immediately, yes, you can edit this task, but if you do, it's not just going to update this scenario, it's going to update all of these scenarios as well. You know, if it were, if there were workflows involved as well, it would tell you those there. So nice that it lets you do it, but nice that it also warns you. Again, in the header information, so if we're inside here and we want to view the header, we can do that now from inside as well. We just click edit header and it brings up the header information. The headers still have both the header that's associated with the scenario and the ones with the actual test round. So that's why in all of your, because I don't know what everyone knows and doesn't know, that's why we've set up all your headers like this that say update and header when generated, update when fin 1's generated, update when fin 2's generated, so that you don't have to always keep these up to date. You just update it in the actual test round. So we usually do the same with the name. Yeah, so sepsis update. So with each round of testing, you would go in and update that here. Does anybody have any questions about any of the things that I've shown so far? Okay, so we're a little ahead of schedule, which makes me think that maybe I went too fast. So I'm going to move on then to the testing component with the things that have changed for testing, unless anybody has any questions about the tasks, workflows, and scenarios, because I know you didn't have any training on those before.
There was one thing I was noticing. So when we were in the scenarios before, we used to like open up one of the scripts, do the export to Excel I know it's just kind of a weird thing, but I noticed this one's using this new version seems to be exporting to like Excel, but it drops it with an extension of XLS instead of XLSX. So every time you try to open it in Excel, you kind of get like
Little warning.
a warning, which obviously you can say, yes, I want to do it anyway, but I just wonder if sometimes.
It always
Does
did
it
XLS,
update that?
actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it always did. But so you're saying when you're inside here, for example, and you choose the export to Excel?
Yeah.
It gives you this warning and then you just say yes.
Yeah.
But that was like, so the difference between this and the 4.0, in 4.0, you couldn't export a scenario that way.
Oh, okay.
So there was the scenarios, maybe there was an export to Excel.
There was an
Maybe-
icon to do it, or you could
Gotcha.
use the report section, but they always were in the XLS format.
Yeah. Yeah. And there still is in the reports, but we're going to talk about reports later. So this is actually, is the same in that it gives you the summary tab or the header information, and then it gives you the test script here.
And the
I mean,
reason
you
I
can
was
always
trying.
save a local copy as a XLSX if you choose
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, I was doing that. I just didn't know if there was a setting where maybe we could just update the format, but I guess not. The other thing was the whole reason I had exported the spreadsheet was I was used to in the old version being able to select the text like within the website. Sorry, so not in here, but
Sorry, hang on, let me get.
got lots of Excels open.
Okay, sorry. So in here, you were used to doing what?
Just like selecting and highlighting text from a step to copy it really quick or something without having to download the version of it. So like the text, add person, patient name. Like if you just wanted to click and drag and highlight, I wasn't finding a way to do that anymore.
It works in some cells, like in the action cell. If you double click that cell, Patty, you can highlight that cell's steps and copy it, but you couldn't do it in like the outcome cell. And the only way to do it is to right click, edit task, and then go into the step and copy it from the step.
There. Okay.
So
Yeah, it's not as simple as highlighting it from the scenario anymore.
Okay.
And so what is the workflow that you're doing that in?
Just trying to easily make scripts by, leveraging old scenarios, looking at stuff, trying to copy paste those steps out. Before you used to just be able to copy the information from the row and then paste it in
Right. So the
Excel.
thing about doing that is you're creating multiples of the same thing. So we try to encourage you to not do that. So if you were wanting, like, what we encourage you to do is build workflows and then use those workflows. Because otherwise, like if we go and look at your workflows, for example, then you'll see that a lot of them have multiple scenarios that they're used in. And that's because we created a lot of your content for you. But you'll see there's also a lot that that don't have that. So let's see if we sort by number.
Yeah, I get it would probably be easier if you have some type of unique information that is going to require multiple steps in a task to copy the task and make a new one, probably, because just my scenario was I couldn't update the existing task because it was already a part of other scripts.
Right, and so that's why, like, what we try to do is make them reusable. So it seems like most of your workflows, maybe if I, does this let me, oh, it doesn't let me sort by this column. That's unfortunate. So you can see like most of these workflows aren't even used at all. And that's because most of your content was uploaded and is in the task. So if we look at your tasks, you'll see most of the tasks were used like 4 times, and it's because we copied the scripts for 4 different
That's correct.
organizations. So this is somebody else. But again, this isn't your live area. So let's see if we do. I don't know how to, I mean, if they're, because they're all going to be ZZZ tasks that we created for you. So you can see these ones are all ones that are only used one time. And so that's like ones not that we created, but that were created after. So you can see down here, they're like all 4 times because we made 4 copies of the scripts for you for each of the sites. So the idea is in TransIT is to create content that's reusable. So create all your registration flows and then put those into the test scripts. So if we do, if we go to workflows and do visit, comma, enter, you'll see that we've made a ton of workflows that are usable, and you guys aren't using them at all. You're not using them in any test script, and that's because you are uploading and copying content, which is fine for what you're doing. But it's that if, say, for example, this was a, whatever, the quick register conversation, and say Cerner changed the quick register conversation, you would have to go in and look in each one of your scenarios to see if it was used. Versus if you'd use the workflow, then you could see, oh, it's in these 25 test scripts. But because you guys aren't using it that way, it makes it harder to find and maintain the content. Like, that's why I was very concerned that you guys had never really had the training, is because then you're continually making new content that potentially you could be using content that we already have. I know that Ange worked with a couple of teams who were really interested in building content initially, and I don't know if those teams continue to do it. I kind of want to say, was it maybe the women's health team?
It was a couple teams, but we only always did it from the task. We've never, obviously, as you can see, did anything from the workflow level.
Workflows. Yeah.
Mhm.
So again, like, that's not the intent of today, because, this was really supposed to be about what's different between the versions. And like, we're not in a, so our new user guides aren't available yet. I'm hoping that'll be within the next month or so. But at any rate, so we're not in a great place where you could even go and do self-learning. But if anybody, like, has questions about building content or whatever, I would suggest you send those to our help desk, to support@makesolutionsInc.com, because really the way the tool becomes the most valuable at all, as it can be, is by you using these workflows repeatedly. So if every time you go to do a pre-registration in your test scripts for a new person where you're leaving it as an incomplete pre-reg, if you always use this workflow and that workflow changes, like a new field is added, then you just come in here and you look and you say, oh, it's in these 45 scenarios. So we're obviously not making the best use of that we potentially could. Does anyone else have any other questions about the tasks, workflows, or scenarios, or the user settings? Otherwise, I can move on to testing.
Let's do it, Patty.
Okay, so testing, you guys are doing lots of testing. And so I don't know, so we're in I guess I can just sign off here and go to a demo area, and then we can work through, because this is like a completed test script, or test round, so it's not going to be that useful. Oops. So we've cleaned a lot of TransIT up in general. So now there's a lot fewer icons to look at. But when you go into your, this used to be called the test execution page. It's now called test rounds. When you go in here, it lists all the active test rounds, similar to the way that it used to. To get into a round of testing, you can click this test dashboard icon, just like you used to be able to. But things are a little bit different inside, and there's some wonderful new things. And I'm not sure if you guys have started using it or not. Have you showed everyone the new the way the position dashboard works now? Brian, or not?
I have gone through it, but we haven't done when we did Gift of Life testing last week. The last 2 weeks, we have demoed it a little bit, but it's only been with a select set of users.
Okay, because this is huge. So if you remember in TransIT 4.0, the position dashboard was completely separate from the test dashboard and it looked very different. So if we go and look and see what positions I have selected here for myself, just the pediatrician, so that's not going to be very useful. So if I go in here and I change this and I say, choose my ED positions. Oops. And probably you wouldn't be testing for all of these positions as one person. But anyway, if I say those are my positions and I save that, when I'm on the test dashboard now, I can go in and I can say, I've already selected the positions. So hang on, I can say filter to the positions that, okay, and it stays on the same dashboard, but it now, the same way as the position dashboard used to filter away and only show you the test scripts you were in, I now know that, okay, I'm only actually in these 3 scripts for the rest of today. And it still, now it shows you right here that it's 8 steps you're waiting on. So if I go in and I look here, it takes me inside the test script and it shows me exactly the 8 steps that are before me. And then it shows me my pieces. If I go, oh, I forgot to tell everyone, the back button now works. So before, one of the things people asked for most was the back button. Now, if I click the back button, it does in fact take me back. So that was if I clicked over here on shortness of breath, it took me in to the step that I'm on. If on the other hand, I click over here, instead of taking me to the 8 steps that are due before me, it takes me to my actual steps. So if I knew that I could carry on with my steps, I can just click there and it takes me right to where I want to go. So
Patty, real quick, one of the things that was asked multiple times was if that tester wanted to see the previous past steps or just the previous steps created. Can you show them that filter?
Yep. So it always by default shows you the remaining steps. And if you want to remove it, you just click this funnel here and you click remove the remaining and it'll show you everything, but it's showing you only everything for that day. If you wanted to take off the day filter and see everything, then you would remove the filter here. But this test script, we're only on day 1, so it's not really showing you that much different. But yeah, if you want to see previous things, so if we go back to the dashboard here, and if you wanted to see, so if I say I want to remove the position filter, if you wanted to go in and see everything, like, so we're 200 steps into this cabbage. If you wanted to go in and see everything that happened in cabbage, you would go here, you would click here, you would say remove the remaining, and it's going to show you everything for that day, but it's only going to show you for day 2 because we clicked inside day 2. So I think if I want to go here and remove the filter for day 2, it's going to show me everything for the script.
Yep.
So back on the dashboard here, when you access a row now, you're accessing a row for the specific day that it says here. So if I wanted to access the shortness of breath, the things that are left for day 1, then I would click here and it's going to take me in and only show me day 1. Again, if I want to see all the days, I would go here and remove that filter. So it makes it like a little bit more intentional of where it is you're trying to go to. So if I go back to the test round page here, this is more deliberate than it used to be, I guess you would say. So here it tells you, before it just used to say start testing, continue testing, or completed, but now it tells you specifically what day you're on for that test script.
Patty, did you happened to come, I might have missed this, I apologize. When they go into their user settings, that if they include their email and phone number, they do get notifications for both.
So I didn't say that when we were talking about the testing, but I did say that up front. So that is, you know, up here, if you go to your settings and you go to the notifications here, you put in this here. If you want, so say, for example, you have, for whatever reason, you wanted your notifications to go to your personal email address. Like say you had like 5 million people emailing you at your work one and you just wanted to concentrate on TransIT or whatever. You do have the ability to choose a different email address here. So if it's not changing your user record, it's changing where your notifications are going to go. And here is where you say what you want to be notified on. If you want to be notified when your steps are coming up, then you click these. And if you want to be notified when your activities are coming up on plans, you click here. So if I'm, so let's see what I chose to be. If I go back here and I go to the position dashboard and okay, so I do up in 8 steps. Let's see if anybody else is on those steps with me. So the notification is going to go to me and a couple of other people. So if I complete the steps here ahead, so again, in here you can shift click and shift click, and then right click, and then pass. So this is getting rid of all the black arrows. So if I pass those, then I think this is going to send me an email now. It doesn't notify you. So say you're the person that's doing the ED positions, and say you've chosen all the ED positions like I did, because I'm the one completing it. It tries to be really intelligent about the emails it sends. So it doesn't send me when I finish the EDRN and I go to the EDMD, if I'm doing both of those, it doesn't send me a message because it knows I'm the same person. But I think I had this set up so that it's multiple people. So let me see if it sends a notification. Looks like not. So I mustn't have those ones set up to be me. But it is really nice that it only sends it when it's truly like a different person. So I don't know if you guys have started using the text messaging as well, but you can also have it send a text to your phone. So again, like if you're working on the EDRN and then it goes after the EDRN to the ED physician and you're also doing that, then it doesn't send you a message. But you know, if you were the micro person and you were, yeah, this isn't a real one we can send, but when you get to here, it would send a text, and the texts come from all from a specific number. So what I would suggest people do is they would add that number into their favorites. So the actual phone number it comes from is 844-631-1878. And so what I've done in my phone is I've saved that as make texting so that it doesn't just look like it's junk mail coming in, that I know, oh, those are the messages that I want to receive. And if you don't want to receive them, then don't click texting. But anyway, so this is the only place where we're actually sending texting at this point.
What was the number again, Patty? I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it's 844-631-1878. And so that way, when those text messages come in, you know what they're for. And so when it comes in as a text, it actually, not that you're going to really want to do this, but it actually comes in with like what the steps are that are due up. So you could actually execute them from your phone if you wanted to, you know, if you signed in on your phone.
And it does work. I mean, I did get text messages when I tested it out, so it did work for us.
Yeah, and it's really nice for Brian if you guys use it. It's really hard when you're trying to coordinate. And you guys, one of the times we did like 70 something test scripts or whatever, so it's really, really hard to keep the test scripts moving. So it's great if everyone turned on either the texting or the email, and that way you don't have to, rely on the testing coordinator to be able to keep you notified of when you're due up.
Yeah, I really like that feature of texting because not everyone is on a device at all times. So it gives one additional possibility to notify people when they're due up.
Yeah. One other change that's in TransIT 5, and people will either like this or not like this, is that you used to have to turn on refresh. It's an auto refresh now, and so it auto refreshes every 90 seconds. So we always had auto refresh, but you had to turn it on. Now it's just automatically on, and you can't change it. It's 90 seconds and it refreshes every 90 seconds. These icons are still the same. So if I go in and I complete some steps here, then that icon should go away.
And those clocks are set at the test setup for a default of 10 minutes.
Correct. And, it's one setting for everybody. So if you wanted it, like it's 10 minutes, if you were really wanting to push everybody because it was getting near the end of the day and you wanted it to be 5 minutes, you would have to go back to the test round. You'd have to right click here and do edit test round. And then, so I actually had it set at 2 minutes, but that's because I'm demoing, right? So typically, what I do if I'm running around a testing is if it's lunchtime, I go out and I set it to be an hour so that people don't feel stressed that, well, like if we're taking an hour break for lunch, then don't tell me my test script is late, and then when they come back from lunch, I set it to 2 minutes so that we make sure the test scripts keep moving. But yeah, it isn't on every screen. It's only in that one screen. One of the other changes is that we sort of moved to universal time code sort of stuff with this version. So if you've got people who are working on your projects in multiple time zones, like Brian, you're in a different time zone, and so it displays the late indicator based on the time zone you're in. So, and I'm not sure if you noticed that or not. So you're going to want to change your time zone on your PC to be Eastern time when you're out west, because otherwise it's not showing you the right information because it's based on that PC's time zone. Does that make sense?
That is very good to know.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing to clean it up a little bit, like I said, there's not only less icons, but the icons are all in this dashboard column, as opposed to they used to be like intermingled in with text. When you were inside a test script, it used to show green underline to show that was assigned to somebody. Now it's this little icon, this person icon, and you hover over it, it tells you who it is. So Fred Brown is assigned to this, and when he's due up, Patty's going to get a text and an email for it.
On the position dashboard, Patty, we used to write who was up next out to the right, and now we have a note column to add that in there. Can you show that?
Yeah, I used to do that too. I'm getting lazier. Like now with the notifications, I do less of that. You're still able to do that. Or if you wanted to say,
Yeah, we did use that for different messages too. If a script was waiting on feedback, or we used it liberally for different messaging.
Yeah, and so it's still available. It's not at the end anymore. I'm not quite sure why development moved it here. I liked it better at the end, but at any rate, it still is available, but it's different. Instead of double clicking that note, you right click and you do edit note and you put your note in.
Yeah, and I don't think you can move the column, so it's going to just appear. So you probably have to hover.
Save it again.
I don't think you can expand the width of the note column.
No, it doesn't look
So-
like that. Yeah, I looked at that too. It doesn't, I don't
Yeah.
have a thing to do it. No.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, you know, by all means, log something to support and say, hey, you think it should be back at the end where it used to be and you'd like it to be able to, or if you want, do you want me to log that for you, Brian? That you'd
Yeah.
like to be able to expand though? Okay.
Yeah.
I will
I mean,
log
I don't
that.
mind doing it. I can do it while you're demoing.
Okay. But it is still here, and it's just that it's a right click option as opposed to double clicking. And I did also notice that actually when you click edit note, if there's a note in here, then if you right click and do edit note, if you click OK, it doesn't blank it out. So if you want to blank it out, you have to put a space in and then it blanks it out.
I was noticing we could just hide the action column too, and then note goes to the end like we're used to.
But the thing is, so the only reason I'd suggest not to do that is because in the position dashboard, it makes a difference. So maybe you didn't realize that before, but sometimes like, so some sites don't allow people to go ahead and other sites allow people to go ahead. But sometimes it's that you need to know, well, can I go ahead or can't I? So right now, for example, there's 131 steps ahead of me in this ED treat and release. So if I click here, it's going to take me to the charge viewer and it's going to say, here are your steps to do. But by going back here, it's actually taking me to that step that's 131 before me. So if you hide that action column, it makes it harder for you to go ahead. So it's the him scanning person that's before me. And so by going here, I can read down and see, okay, does any of this stuff impact me? Okay, and so now I've determined, no, it doesn't impact me. So now I can go and do my steps. So that's the only reason I would caution you to not hide the action column is because it used to be that this was the same as this, and now it's not. Now this takes you to the next step due up, and this takes you to the step due up for this position, and they're not always the same thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. I didn't
Yeah.
realize.
No, because it's different in 5.0. So and I'm sorry that there's construction going on here. I'm sure you can hear that, but he's trying to be quiet. So I will log that you guys think the note should be back at the end the way it used to be, because I kind of agree with you, and that you'd like it to be sizable, the column. Or if you logged it, Brian, then I'll make sure it gets addressed. But it is really important to note, like, people, some sites are very nervous about people going ahead in test scripts. And there's some times where you can't, right? But if the physician's just entered the power plan and you're the radiology person, you don't need to wait for pharmacy and for nursing and for everybody else to do their stuff. You can just go ahead and start and complete your exam and carry on. So that's why it's really cool that this now takes you to your position. So if I filtered to RadNet and I'm the RadNet person, I just click here and I go right to it and I don't have to worry about everything. But the fact that it is here allows you to go in and evaluate. So if your steps are for, I don't know, for administering meds or something like that, and you wanted to see if they'd been verified first, clicking here allows you to go and see if the steps before you are actually the verifying the meds, or if that's already been done, if that was important to you. So that's like actually a big thing, different in 5.0 that I think is much more user-friendly. So now if we were to go in here, then aside from passing the step, you also could, there's other options, right? You right click and maybe instead of passing it, you wanted to skip it for a reason, or you wanted to flag it, or you wanted to put an issue, or you wanted to do a test note. So test note is what we always have people do if they just want to fix something in the script. So if there's nothing, if they can carry on, there's nothing wrong in the system, but they just want to put a note for somebody to fix the script, then that's when you'd go to test note. Test note looks different than it used to. It's now different tabs. So the second tab gives you all the information about the step that you're on, which is really handy. The header information is still here like it was, and it still has the little icon that you can hover. And it's still, this is in a random order. I'm pretty sure I have it logged for this to not be in a random order, for it to be in the order of the header details. But at any rate, you can get to all that information here. The attachments is on a third tab. If you want to add attachment, you just click there and you pick whatever it is you, goodness knows what I've got here that's reasonable to add in. You just add your attachment there. And if you want to get rid of the attachment, you click the red X, and then your ability to add your note is here. Recently, we added the ability to email the assigned to person. So if this is like a script error and I say I want to assign it to Reggie, and goodness knows what this even was.
You can assign it to me if you want the email.
Well, no, it won't, because it won't go to you. It'll look, because this I'm in the demo area now. I'm not in McLaren anymore. But anyway, and if I say, please look at this, and Reggie should actually get an email now saying, hey, he just had a note assigned to him. So that's a recent addition. That wasn't here when we first went up with 5.0. That came out just a little bit afterwards.
And for clarification, if that assigned to gets updated, would it send a subsequent email to the new assigned person?
You know what? I don't know. We'd have to test that out and see. I'm not
Okay.
100% positive on it. And you know what? This isn't going to send an email because we've got it turned off in our demo environment. So maybe I should
Sure.
go, maybe if I sign off and go to our real environment,
Now, typically for test notes, that's not really a workflow that it would usually change. So they're usually all assigned to me, but an issue would definitely go to a default person and then they would make the assignment.
No, but let's go into test because they're all going to go to you. But when you assign them out to other people, right, you want to know if they're going to get it.
For issues, that's correct. For test notes, they just stay with me.
Oh, you don't. So you do all the corrections for the test scripts?
I don't make all the corrections, but I coordinate the corrections.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
But it would be nicer to reassign them for those.
Yes. So let's see if we can quickly, I'm pretty sure. So let's see if I log a note here. I think this should fire. I think it won't know that it's really me. Okay, so here's the test note that it just sent based on my great description of the information that I needed them to fix. Okay, so it said it was created by me and I just have Reggie Straight. He has my email address too, so that's when I got it. And so now if we go in, you see it was assigned to Reggie Straight. So now let's see what happens if I'm Reggie Straight and I go in and I go to my test note and I update it. I wonder who else. So if I put it back to me, it may or may not. And I can't spell apparently. It may or may not send because it may know that it's me, but let's see if it does. So it doesn't look like it automatically did send it. So do you want to do me a favor and put that one in as well, Brian? Because you want obviously on a test note, if it gets reassigned, for it to, like, definitely on the issues it does. And so
you know for sure it does on the issues. Okay.
Oh, for sure on the issues it does, yes. So this is now that we've just put a test note in. If there was something wrong with it and you're not sure if it's an issue, and you could flag it, and that's when it goes to the test report. And so this one already has that test note on it, so we save it. If we go here, this is where the test report is, and this shows you things that are either flagged or things that are just notes. And so in here, if you're evaluating it and you decide that, okay, no, this is a true issue, so you want to make an issue out of it, you right click and you say issue, and it's going to pop open the issue form. And in the issue form, the step information is below and the attachments is below, unlike it was in the notes where they were beside. And so in here, if I assign this one to Reggie, and I say it's a blocker and it's an application issue, whatever other things I want to fill in, And again, if you wanted to put an attachment here, you click and brings up the attachments. And you save it. Then we go back here and it tells us, okay, this one has an issue assigned to it and there's an attachment. So from the test note, you can get right to the attachment. And my attachment's on my other screen, and I'm doing a baby shower for my daughter. So that's from the test note perspective. And if you go in and look at it from the issue perspective, the issue log looks a little different as well, in that you can directly access your attachments there, which I think is really nice. Also the vendor number and the resolve number. So this would allow you to enter your Cerner CR number here, sorry, SR number here and your CR number here, and they're viewable now on the screen. So that's pretty nice. Here, when I logged that issue, oops. You can see it was logged and it's now a blocker and it's assigned to Reggie. And so here now, if Reggie goes in and Reggie says, well, like, I don't think so, that's not really my issue. And he goes in and he updates the issue and he says, I don't think so. Really, Patty, you need to work on it. Then when I assign it back to Patty, it should send another email. So it hasn't sent it yet. Okay, so this is when I set my phone for us to make sure that we would take our 15-minute break. So is everybody good to take a break for 15 and we'll start right up again at 2:45?
I think so.
Okay, thanks everyone. I'll go on mute and I'll come back in 15 minutes. Hello, is everyone back?
Most everyone's back, counting how many we had before we went on break.
Okay, so I did do a test while we were away, and when I reassign an issue, it does send another message. So this one was assigned to Reggie Strait, now it's assigned to Fred Brown. But interestingly, if I assign it to myself, it doesn't, and I think that's actually a good thing. So anyway, the answer is on the test note. Or sorry, on the issue, it definitely does. On the test note, I didn't try that. So we'll have to try that afterwards where we send it, because I signed it to myself, and so it looks like it wouldn't work for that anyway. But it does definitely, when you reassign, it does definitely send another message out, which is good. So if something's assigned to you and you assign it to somebody else, they get a notification. Okay. Moving along. And the other thing that I don't think I stressed enough is that the back button does always work. I did show it once, but that was like one of the most requested features, was having the ability to go back in TransIT, and now you can. You also have the ability to work in multiple windows. So if you wanted to, go to the issues, you can open it in a new tab, and it pops open a new tab and keeps your old tab just the way it was. So that's cool new feature that people asked for, and so hopefully people are making use of it. Let's see. There is also, if we move on to issues, the issues now show broken out by project and by test round. There are some additional icons here. If I want to view all issues, I can click this, and it'll open a list of literally all of the issues across all of the rounds. This icon here is a list of recently viewed issues. So it'll bring back the, I think it's all of the issues you looked at personally today. You can follow an issue now. So if this one is in a resolved status, but you really want to know when the person finishes testing it, you can right click and you can follow issue. It'll put the icon there. It moved up to the top because I have it sorted by last updated. And when this one gets updated to closed, you'll get notified of it. This funnel I showed at the beginning, allowing you to build a filtered list of issues that you want to see. So if you're wanting to follow all the critical and high issues, for example, you can build a list of that, and it will bring those up to you. This icon here is for open issues that are assigned to you. And so when I click that, it looks like lots of things are assigned to me. This is the only page that has several icons on it, but I do think they're all fairly useful icons. There is now filtering for basically most of the columns here. So that was one of the questions before. People wanted to have the ability to do multiple search. So we still have this. So if we wanted to search for issues with the word physician in, I can use that search and it'll do that. If I clear that search, if I wanted to instead look for all of the ones that, well, this one was the ones that were assigned to me. I already filtered on that. If I wanted to say, okay, only show me the ones that are a blocker, I can filter. There's no blockers right now. Filter to the ones that are just high, and it'll show me the list of ones that are just high. So that was something that was frequently requested, the ability to do multiple sorts in your issue list, and those are now available. I guess I'll stop and ask if anybody has questions on testing, test notes, or issues. And then I'll move on to reports. Okay.
So we're still working some script updates from a round of testing. If I remove that round of testing, are those test notes still available, or do they go away? I've been hesitant to do that.
So they don't go away, but I don't think it'll let you work on them unless they have it as an active round.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, but if say you're in here and you're in testing and you say, okay, I don't want this round, and I inactivate it. This is IT round 1 from the 5th of July. then it's gone, but I can just as easily bring it back by viewing inactive rounds. And it was this one here. I right click on it and I say restore test round.
Okay, that could be useful. And my last question was, in 4.0, I used Control F quite a bit, but I don't see that same ability working consistently in 5.0. Is that because there's a different search option like you had in that issues view, or is that something that
So
I'm
where do you,
experiencing and it's just me?
Yeah. So you should be able to, like, the Control F is just the browser search.
Right.
So you should be able to do that still everywhere. There's not a need for it as much. I still use it occasionally, but not nearly as often, because most things do have like filtering capabilities. There's some things that don't. Where in particular were you wanting to use it that you felt you couldn't use it?
Oh, it's been in multiple views of doing different things. Like if I'm on the scenarios page, we have, over 100, and I wanted to quickly go to like wound, I type in Control F to take me there. It may not work. It's not been consistent.
So the reason it's not working is because, oh, I'm not in yours, is because it's not on that page. But if we go to yours, like, it's not going to search, it's only going to search the page on the screen. So let's go and look and see, because the Control F should still work.
Okay, I can give you examples where it's definitely not working, but
Okay.
if it's supposed to work, I don't
Well,
know if
so
that's
when I'm
also
saying-
because I'm using Chrome and it's not on the latest version. That's also a possibility, but it's definitely not working like it did in 4.0.
Yeah, so it should, because that's not part of our functionality. That's just part of Chrome, or that's just part of Edge, or wherever you are, right? So if you do Control F here and you do wound, it's not finding it, but maybe wound is on the second page of the 27. Right? So it's not going to, it's only
I get it,
search.
but I can see words on the page that I'm doing Control F for, and it's not finding it. So I know it's not working 100% of the time.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, this isn't really our search, right? This is Chrome search. So find some examples where it didn't work, and I'll see if there's anything we can do, but you can see like it is working for me. So like, is wound still inactive? Wound doesn't look like it's an active script. So if you find examples, for sure, let me know. But Control F was never our search. It was always just the browser search. So it's governed by the browser search. Any other questions about testing or issues? Okay, so then moving on to reports. So reports have changed a little bit. There is more in the database audit now. I don't know if everyone's aware that release notes has always been here. So we are, you can see we're on 5.15 already, and 16 is going to go in probably today. So as we fix things, we do update the release notes. So if there's something that stops working or is working differently, or if you want to see if something's available, this isn't a bad place to go and look. Oops, sorry. The database audit is a little bit different, and we are, updating it all the time. So it doesn't have everything in it, but it is a good place to go and search. So if something isn't working in a scenario and it looks like somebody changed the scenario, then you can go out here and change your date range and look for, that scenario name and see where it was changed. But it does do a pretty decent job of logging things. So I don't know if you guys have used that very much, and this one for sure, like I use the, like if I want to see, okay, well, where are all the changes Brian made to make sure he didn't screw up my script, then I do use this search all the time. This is one of the places where I still do use it, because we don't have a search built into here. I mean, we may add one at some point, but until we do, that's a place where I definitely use Control F. If I were to run the test planning report, it's a little bit different than it was before. I click run report here, and you're usually going to want to filter to the whatever kind of scripts you want to do. And when you choose them, what's a little bit different is that you choose run, it goes away and it goes to this page, and you can see that, I guess you can't because it completed so quickly, but it runs in the background, and then when it's finished, it goes to completed here. Let's do it so that you can actually see it a little bit better. If I go back and I do the process-based test script, that'll take a bit longer. So I choose whichever ones I want to run the reports for, and I click run. It takes me to this page, and you can see it's showing started and it's starting to run. I can go wherever I want. Okay, it finished really quickly as well. And then when I go back to the reports page, I click this icon here. And then here's my test planning report that was run. So it's a little bit different, but it frees you up, because I think before that if you ran the test planning report that, it might run for 7 or 8 minutes or whatever. And, it's hard to sit and wait for that. You'd rather go on and do other stuff. So it still runs the same report with the positions page and then the by scenario page. But again, it is running in and it is an XLS still, but it is running in the background instead of taking up your screen time. So that I think is a good feature. The same is true with the scenario scripts. If you run those, they all do run in background. The workflow scripts as well. So those haven't really changed except for the fact that they run in background. And the training materials we looked at briefly before, the WBT is completely out of date. I don't know that we'll be replacing that soon. There is a blank plan for creating plans. There is the functional and the process-based script headers for you to do your copy and paste if you're going to get scripts in that way. There's also the style guide is still out here, as well as our privacy policy and the terms of service. If you ever wanted to go back and look at those after you acknowledge them, they're out here. The guides have been pretty much removed because they're so out of date. So all we have out here is a quick start guide for plans and a quick start guide for testing. So as soon as those are available, they will be re-added back in here. Okay, so now we're going to move on to plans. And what's new with plans? Did somebody have a question? Sounds like not. Okay, so again, plans is different in that it's this grid format. So I know you guys had a ton of plans out there, and they now don't scroll off the screen, which is a nice thing. I didn't talk about rules before, but before you start working on your plans, you have the ability to add roles. So roles you can access from the plans page. And you can see, like, this is, a whole list of plans. Maybe we should go to McLaren for a second for this to see, did you clean up all of your roles, Brian, or not? Or did somebody for McLaren clean them up?
I do not recall.
Okay, so not to call you out, because, but we looked at, when we converted plans, what we did was we took anything that was in the role column. No, so you don't have any added here. So let's back up a little bit.
Sorry.
What's that?
I did take out those rules.
Okay, so what you should do is build your rules by intention. So if we go in and look at your, just pick any plan here. Doesn't matter which one, so we'll pick this one. Okay, so in here, so this used to have a role in it, and it's been inactivated, and that's why it's just showing a number. So if when you're building your cutover plan, Elaine is a specific kind of resource, and like say she was whatever, a rad tech, then by having it say rad tech here, if Elaine isn't available to do it, you know, okay, it's this role that can do it. So we generally have people pre-build roles. So let me go back, and since you guys don't have any built, I'll go back here. So you can get to it under the plans page like I just showed, or you can also get to it from the user page here. So if you can see, the kinds of things we build out as roles are, you know, for example, you know, your project management type roles. So who's going to be in the command center, your analyst type roles, all of those things get built here. And then they're available to be used in plans. So, you know, we've just got some random list of 29 roles built here. But, you know, I would suggest you put time and thought into what you want to be in your roles. And it should include like your Cerner team roles as well. So if, you know, it's something that the Cerner IA would do for you, then you would build a role of Cerner IA, and then that's what would get assigned to a specific activity that you wanted them to do. And then when they decide, okay, it's Christian who's going to do it, then they would put his name into the assigned. So it gives you an ability to have a placeholder in your plan before you've assigned it, but they do need to be pre-built. So the ways to pre-build it are to go to users and go to roles, or to go to plans, and then from plans to click the roles icon. And it's the same 29. So you guys don't have those built out. So I can see that there would be a need for you to do that, especially some of your plans are plans that you've used for multiple cutovers. And so it would be good to have the roles identified, because especially like on the end user side, those names would change site to site. Let's see. If we go back to the plans page, there's things that have changed on this page. There's different types of plans now. There's the spreadsheet plan, there is a scheduler plan, and then in the future there'll be a Gantt plan. Gantt exists right now, but it's not really, we're not supporting it, it's not really active yet. So most of the plans I have here are spreadsheet plans. I know that because there's a spreadsheet icon in this column. I have one that's for a staffing in our scheduler plan, and I know that because it's got the calendar here. So that's how you know from viewing on the outside what type of plan it is. In TransIT 5.0, all of the totals were at the top. They've now been moved down to the bottom. Not a big difference, but anyway, it's different. The multi-plan view is different. So we used to have a like a funky icon at the top here that you would filter to the sets of plans you wanted, then you would click that icon. In TransIT 5, you select by either, you know, shift click or, you know, control click, whichever plans you care about. And once you've highlighted the plans you care about, you right click and you say multi-plan view. And that basically does what that other icon used to do, which is it builds for you a chronological view of all the plans you've selected. You don't upload plans the same way, you do cut and paste. So again, that's under reports where I showed you the blank plan. That's where how you would build out your plan. You can also, if you don't remember how to get to it, you can also click a row and do copy to clipboard, pop open Excel, and just create a blank workbook and do paste, and it'll give you sort of the gist of what the rows are. It doesn't say the columns when you do it. It doesn't say the headers, I mean, so that's why it's better to use our blank one. But if you're wanting to cut and paste, whoops, if you're wanting to cut and paste steps from one plan to another, you would highlight them that way and do copy to clipboard and then paste them to another plan. You can do that whether you're in the multi-plan view or in the single plan view. So now inside this multi-plan view, it doesn't tell me what the plans are that I've selected, but it tells me that I've selected 8 different plans, and that's the view I'm looking at. So inside the spreadsheet plans, the main differences are, so if I go into a single plan, that copy and paste to clipboard that I was showing. So if I want to take off my status filter here to include the completed. If I wanted to create a copy of this plan, I could click the first item. Oops, I didn't shift click, sorry about that. Turned on my caps instead. So I highlight all my rows, and I can copy to clipboard here. And then, like I said, I can either go to another plan and paste those rows in here. Or I could have just as easily pasted it into a Excel spreadsheet if I wanted to do some other massaging in here. So much easier to cut and paste steps. So I see I have some where I inactivated things as well. Yeah, so if you do ever run across something that looks like a code value here, it is because you inactivated a role, and you can either reactivate the role or just build a new one. One of the things that's really, really, really nice in this version of TransIT, if I go to plans here, and if I'm looking to, well, so it's 4,000 something. So this is obviously my demo database, and I haven't updated in a while. If I wanted to, I notify people about tasks that are late, I can click here on this icon, and it's going to bring me to my list of activities that are late. I can highlight the ones I care about, right click, and I can do send email. And what it's going to do is it's going to send an email to, this person who's not real, and to me, and I can put in here and click send. And again, I don't know if it's going to send to me since it's myself. It might know that it is, but it's going to send that. No, it did send it to me. Okay, so if I pop that open here, then it gives me a nice list of, here are the tasks you have. Please update your tasks. This is the plan it's in, and this is the task it is, and this is the task it is. And you can actually access those activities directly by clicking that link. It'll take you to that plan and to that activity. It'll be highlighted, and I can go in here and say, okay, yeah, I finished that, in May when I was supposed to do it, and then I'm done. So that is something that I think is really, really would have been really useful for you guys, and all of the cutovers you've done with plans, is the ability to email those tasks out to people. And it doesn't have to be just the ones that are overdue as well. I recently did an upgrade, a Cerner upgrade, and it was great to be able to use this to every day, the tasks that were coming due tomorrow and the next day, to quickly send those out to everybody. Okay, these tasks are coming due. Please make sure you do your updates, because it's nice to be able to send them out in advance and not just when they're overdue. So I don't know if people are on here, if the people who are on the phone now are just the people who are using testing, but hopefully the people who are using plans at McLaren will find that to be a huge time saver. Let's see. In here, I'm not sure how much this will be used. Let me see if I can figure out how you do it. You can change the name and the width of the column. Change column label. And it now says Patty for that column. I think it only shows for this plan and when you leave and come back. So we're in the cutover plan for AP. So I don't think it's permanent. It'll be interesting if it is. It is. So that's always going to be called Patty now, unless I change it back. But anyway, that was something that was requested by people, was to be able to change. And I think it's the category, the group, and maybe the type column that you can change. Change label, yeah. So I don't know if that's something you guys are interested in using. You can also set the column width as well. So that you can't do, I know you're asking about doing it on the testing dashboard. You can't do it there, but you can do it here in plans. Okay, then the other thing that I wanted to show you guys was the new type of plan, which is the scheduler plan. And this is the first release of this, and so additional upgrades will be coming. Maybe I'll cheat and I'll show you somebody else's that's getting ready for a go live. Basically, it's the ability to build your staffing plan inside TransIT. And so, you know, here I don't have much built, but if I go, I know there's a client using it this weekend. So if we quickly whip over there. So I don't know about you guys, but when we're getting ready for go live, every application manager sends you a different Excel spreadsheet with how they're staffing the go live, and it's always really hard to read. And so we built in TransIT the ability to build your schedule in here. So, you know, I've grouped it now by role. So, you know, here's your app managers. These are all showing green because they're staffed and because they're staffed by people who are qualified to do that role. If we look down here, you can see these red ones are because they haven't put anyone in for the integration architect yet. They've put in one person for interfaces, but they're expecting to staff the night shift as well. Or no, that's the day shift, and they haven't assigned it yet. If I want to see the ones that are unassigned, I can right click here and say view unassigned events, and it'll bring together in a single view. Okay, so they're doing a great job, but of course they go live tomorrow, so it should be pretty clean. So the only ones that aren't staffed are these few positions. This is another place where you need to use the role. So you have to pre-build your roles and say what roles you wanted to staff. And now here I'll go back to, I don't want to touch theirs, I'll go back to mine. So we're looking at ways to make this less burdensome in the data entry arena, but those Excel spreadsheets were never very fun to build either. If you want to add a new row, you can right click anywhere here and do add new row. And so then I'll give this a role and we'll say that this is the communication role. And we're going to say Amy's going to do that. And so the reason it said July 6th is because I clicked here. So it was looking at July 6th. Obviously, we don't care since that's in the past. But if we said, OK, she's going to do this role starting on July 11th, and she's going to do it from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And she's going to do it for 4 days in a row. And she's going to do it remote. And we click save. Then it adds it to here. It added it in red because Amy is not a communication person. So if that's a mistake and I really want Amy to be a communication person, all I have to do is I go over here to my users and I find Amy. And I add in that she in fact is a communication person. And when I go back to my plan now, she shows as green. You know, here this shows that this isn't staffed at all, and that's why it's red. Another one's not staffed. There's the ability to, if I, you know, wanted to say, okay, I was off for this day, but I'm going to actually be also on this day, I can do add date. It's going to pre-populate with the previous information. If I'm going to be on for 2 more days, I click save there and it fills in the information. So it's not no work to create this, but those Excel spreadsheets, I don't know if anyone on this call has ever built a staffing spreadsheet, but it's not a lot of fun to build. The other thing, the other thought on this is there's the ability. So if you're using this for a go live and you were using a whole bunch of super users for at the elbow support or whatever, and you wanted to keep track, say the project budget had to pay for all of those super users, you have the ability to use this sort of as a check-in. So when I'm inside this view, instead, if I switch it to spreadsheet view, and you're having people, sign in on sheets or whatever and say if they were there, you can come in here and mark that, yes, that person did show up, or mark it over here as complete. And then it's a way to keep track of who showed up and who didn't show up, and whether or not, all the roles that were supposed to be filled were filled. One of the other things, if I switch it back to the schedule view, one of the other things we're planning to do is to add in things like, so it does have company already, but we're planning to add in things like the number of hours and the rate, so that you'd be able to use it to cost out your staffing, as well to be able to use it to see how many shifts that person was working. So if you're trying to evenly spread out your workload between, 4 IAs or whatever you happen to have, or 3 registration analysts, and you see one of them has 100 hours and the other only has 5 hours, but that's going to be a future release. Let's see what else.
Just a quick question, Patty.
Sure.
Is there a way to set up like on days, like if you want to have 2 shifts or 3 shifts, so that people have to enter, different people on different shifts?
Yep. So right now I have like 1 command center lead on the day shift and 1 on the night shift. But if you were like, it was extremely busy and you wanted to have 2 assistants, let's say, then all I would do is I would, click down here, add a new row, and I would say, okay, this is command center assistant as well. And if I knew who it was assigned to, I could assign that right away. If I didn't, I could leave it blank. If I left it blank, it would just show up in red. And we'll say that Angela's going to do it for 6 days in a row, and she's going to be remote. So we have 1 on site and 1 remote, and it just creates the second row. And then when I go in and I do that group by row, then it shows, okay, the 2 people who are doing the command center assistant role are Angela and Patty. Patty's going to be on site in the command center. Angela's going to be remote. And apparently we didn't think Angela should be able to do that role because we didn't assign it to her. But it's not a perfect tool, but it's getting better, and we would love it if people would try to use it and give us feedback. Like I said, typically when I do conversions, Cerner sends me a spreadsheet that's, whatever hours, like if their shifts are 7 to 7 and ours are 6 to 6 or whatever, they send me one spreadsheet, and all the shadow IT people send me different spreadsheets, and the SMEs send me a spreadsheet, and then we got the IT spreadsheet. So the idea was put a tool together where you could put all of it into one view that you could manage. So it doesn't matter what hours they send you, because, each individual cell can be whatever hours you choose. Any other thoughts on this?
I definitely want to get this out in front of Vikas, because
Yes.
we're doing the Excel version that you just talked about. And I think we might be able to use it.
Yeah, and then like if he wants to do like a quick Teams meeting with me to show, because there's definitely like ways to get it from Excel into here that are easier. So when I build one, when someone sent it to me in Excel, I definitely go person by person as opposed to role. If on the other hand, it's brand new and you haven't done any staffing on it yet, what I do is I first put in on the roles. So if I know I want to have 2 IAs on shift during the day, every day for 28 days, then I build that. And if I know I only want 1 at night, then I build that. So I build out all the roles first with no one assigned to them if I'm starting from scratch. If instead it's the same thing, like Cerner's giving you one spreadsheet, and the informatics team gave you a spreadsheet, and all the apps managers gave you their individual spreadsheets, then I just go row by row from their spreadsheets and add them in. And it's not that it takes no time, it's that once it's in, it does add value that you've got it all in one place and you can look.
Hey, Brian, it's Rob. Was wondering if you could include, when you speak to Vikas, include Javier, Mike, Shane, and myself to that session.
And this is Cynthia, include me, because this would be a great tool. Hey there, guys.
Yes.
I'm back.
So whoever, so I don't mind doing like, so what I'd suggest is if you've started a spreadsheet somewhere, that we do a little Teams meeting and we walk through your Excel spreadsheet and walk through the best way to get in, because it's not no work. Like, I won't lie and tell you it's none, but there's a couple things. One is I want feedback, and we're looking at it now anyway to see like how can we make it less labor intensive. But anybody who's ever built one of those spreadsheets where you got to get your 24 hours in the day, because this person's starting at 7 and this person's starting at 8 and this person's starting at 7:30, like this takes all of that burden away.
This would be, yeah, I've done those, and I would say this would be a great, great asset.
Yeah, well, what we're trying to do is like, we're trying to make TransIT the tool that helps you with your activation and go live, right? And so whether it's managing issues, oh gosh, that's one thing I forgot to say. So I'm not sure if you guys have used this in your plans or not, but plans can also link to issues. So whatever it is, so let's say, so here, one of our clients used it for the required build steps for the Cerner upgrade. So if you're in here and you're working on something and, you can't do something because there's actually an issue with it, you can right click here and say log issue, and whatever this happened to be. Yeah, I don't know what names I would have here. But anyway, like if there's some reason why you couldn't do something and it's on hold because of whatever, like whoever you're assigning this to, and I won't even, and when I save it, oh, the title's required. Okay. So not only does it show here that there's an issue, but it also, like when you hover over it, you can see it tells you who it's assigned to and what the text is basically of it. So it shows back here in your plans view that, okay, like we've got, apparently 8 things have issues logged, and, you can either get to it by going here and seeing what the issue is and hovering, or you can get to it by going to your issue list and, whatever project that was on, and I didn't look and see. So we're working on things like that as well, so that like the plans ones don't call out separately like the test rounds do. And I think like that's something that I would want to add, but to be able to easily go to this view and say, okay, well, we're doing a crappy job because we've got 1,486 tasks that are overdue. But again, like I haven't updated this in a long time. This is just my play area, and of them, 1,000 of them are departmental leader readiness. So I guess we shouldn't be going live because our leaders are doing a bad job. But to be able to pick out the things that are issues, or to be able to, we're also working on things like a risk register, trying to build a risk register in here. And our current thoughts are that the risks will be built as issues that show as issues on hold. So you would be able to actually, go here and see all of the risks for your project. There would be like another icon here to get to the risk register, and you would click it and it would bring up either the risk register for everything or the filtered list of plans that you're showing there. The other thing that's coming, and like it sort of works a little bit. Let me see, I don't have, so here's a real plan. If I look at this plan, there's the ability to turn it into a Gantt sheet view. And hopefully it'll work here. So it does, but like there's no real added benefit from using it in a Gantt sheet view yet. And so we're still working on that functionality. It's coming. But for now, like our plans, we all work in the spreadsheet type view. And I think those were really all of the things I had to show. Oh, I guess in plans, there's the ability to have dependencies. So here it says that this task is dependent on task 2 being finished. So if I were to go in and mark task 2 as complete or as 100% done, whoops. Then if I refresh my screen, then anything that was dependent on that task 2, the icons go away. So it's, a lot of people think they want to use Microsoft Project, but then a lot of people don't really know how to use Microsoft Project. So this is a much simpler tool for managing your project plans. So does anyone have any questions at all about any of the things that I've shown?
Nice job.
No, like I'm sorry that Angela wasn't available. She does a much better job than I do. But you know, as always, so Brian did send a couple of email requests for enhancements as we were on the call. When you see things that you think should work differently, then log an issue, because sometimes it's broken code or sometimes it's an enhancement request. And I think Brian will tell you, we try to be pretty responsive in our requests that we get from clients.
Very responsive. And again, the email address is in the chat for anyone that wants to make note of that, or you can always contact myself or Patty for that.
You could be like Brian. Brian emails Angela, who's the lead for TransIT, and me directly. But the best thing to really do is to log it to support, because that way somebody else can pick it up if Angela or I are busy. But it's fine. You can continue to do it, Brian. I was just giving you a hard time.
No worries. I try not to do it too often.
Yeah. All right. So if nobody has any other questions, then we can close the session off early. I really appreciate everybody showing up today. Like I said, it was, you know, it wasn't really our fault that we didn't really think about the fact that everybody's email address changed to McLaren. But the invite definitely didn't go out to you guys to join the session. I will also put in a plug. So we switched our virtual user group meetings to be quarterly, and one is coming up next week on Friday. It doesn't mean you guys have to attend, because a lot of the things we went over today anyway. But if you go out to our website, there's a place to join our virtual user group meeting, just so that you'll know about ones in the future. The other thing is, you know, if something looks different, remember to go to reports and to go and look at the release notes to see if it's something that's gone in recently. And with that, if nobody else has anything else.
I did want to mention one thing, that for the McLaren team to use the default browser of Microsoft Edge, we did find some Zoom issues in Google Chrome. So to avoid any issues, please use Microsoft Edge.
Yeah, and before we used to tell people to use multiple browsers. You don't need to do that anymore, because now you can see you can open multiple windows and have multiple windows open at the same time. The other thing you can do is if there seems to be a conflict between what you're working on, you can also open a separate incognito window in Edge and work with multiples that way.
Very good. Brian, Patty, thank you for putting this together. I think it was very beneficial to the group. I apologize, I needed to drop off for a couple of times, but from what I've seen, it seems very interesting, and appreciate the time that you guys spent together to bring everybody together to view this demo.
Yeah, if everyone's not aware of the history, so when we installed TransIT, we did it in about 6 weeks, and there literally was not time to train anyone. And there was always the thought that we were going to train everyone afterwards. And then with the switch away from Atos, all of the analysts were different. So really, you guys have done a great job of coming up to speed on the tool with almost no education whatsoever. So we really do appreciate you guys taking the time today to sit in on this. Okay, if there's nothing else, then thank you, everybody. And so, Ryan, I will send you the, oh, maybe should I just send it out to the whole email distribution, the YouTube link to this wonderful video?
Yes, please. That would be great.
Okay. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, Patty.
Bye.
Thank you. Good weekend.